I have with me a very special guest today, Tanmay Srinath. Hello, Tanmay.
Hi Sagar, such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Uh, the pleasure is all mine, Tanmay. You are right now a international master in correspondence chess. Is that
Senior
correct?
International Master.
Senior international master. That's one
Yes.
step ahead of international master.
Yes.
And India has very few senior international masters. I guess four to be precise.
Yeah, I am the fourth one.
Wow. Wow. Okay, can you tell our viewers firstly, like, you are a FIDE rated player on over the board chess, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got into correspondence chess somewhere in 2020, was it, or
Yes.
2020?
Yeah.
And it's been 5 years since then. Could you tell our viewers what correspondence chess is and how does one play?
Sure. So this is a format of chess where I think the aspect of chess as a science becomes much more prevalent than chess as an art or chess as a sport. It's a format where it used to be played through postcards before between people, but now it takes place online on a server called ICCF, which is the FIDE equivalent for correspondence chess. Typically, players get days for a single move. The normal time control can be something like 50 days for 10 moves. And a tournament on average takes about a year or two to complete, depending on how fast or slow the players play.
A year or
Here,
two?
you,
Wow,
yes, yeah,
insane.
which is why while 5 years looks like a long time, it actually is not, because there is still a tournament I started in early 2024 that's going on at this moment.
And would the tournaments overlap with each other? So like at a given point you are playing some 3 4 tournaments?
Yes, I've seen players play even six or seven at once,
Wow.
but those are the ones that are retired from professional duty and have all the time in the world. For me, I think the maximum I've played at a time is about 20 to 25 games, which would be 2 to 3 tournaments.
Uh, okay. In one day, I mean in general there are 20 25 games going on.
Yeah, I think right now I have about 20 games running, out of which maybe my opponent has to move in about 5 to 6 games, and the remaining are my turn.
And how much is the time duration for one move that you have?
So, as I said, the typical duration is 50 days for 10 moves. There are also some tournaments called triple block where you have a time block that is added, let's say 50 days plus 50 days increment sort of thing, where if you make a move in 3 days, you have 47, but the 3 gets deducted from the bank. There are such formats as well.
Wow.
I am I typically am slower nowadays. When I started off, I used to make moves almost immediately because that OTB tendency is there, right? You want to put the onus back on the opponent as soon as possible. But I realized quite early on that it is better to take your time and make decisions, because a win is so hard to come these days that even winning on time feels like a great achievement, that you've bored somebody enough that they just stop making moves.
So you are also working, right? You are a
Yeah.
professional.
Yes, I am functionally leading product in Walmart, specifically in the generative AI and supply chain innovation space. I've been with Walmart since 2022, where I joined as a fresher. So balancing software engineering, chess, and also a budding Toastmasters career slash hobby, I should say.
What is a
It's
Toastmaster?
Toastmasters is a non-profit organization. It was founded about 100 years ago. The mission is to help us become better speakers and leaders.
Oh,
So I have been associated with them since March 2023. And I initially joined because I wanted to use it as some sort of profile building to eventually get above and beyond, and to sort of help me improve as a leader. But I stayed back because I really loved the aspect of going on stage and speaking with people.
amazing, amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong here. When you play correspondence chess, people can use engines freely as much as they want. Any number of engines, they can seek help from another person. Everything is allowed.
Another person I don't think is allowed technically, but it's very difficult to verify. But yes, any engine, any database, any book in the world. So think of it like the open book exams.
Right.
You can use any resource you want, any depth. You can use the billion node stockfish. You can use the ChessBase cloud, any resource that will help you, because I think ICCF realized very early on that they could not really prevent people from using engines. So if you can't beat them, join them, allowed them to start using it.
And what surprises me is that when two people have engines with them, backed by engines, yet someone can win. It's like
Yes.
saying that human plus engine is maybe a more interesting game than just two engines playing each other.
I think for sure, because when you have two engines playing each other, they're just playing out the first principal variation that they calculate to a certain ply, or in Leela's case, a certain number of nodes. But when it comes to human input, I think a human still has a lot to give. Otherwise, we would just have top players randomly use engines. There would be no need for a second or a team of seconds. So the human input comes in where we need to identify the most promising path from different possibilities. If you have, let's say, 5 lines that are 0.00, what is the one line that can pose the most concrete problems, or the one line where the engine doesn't really understand that it is not as trivial as its 0.00 makes it look. I think centaur chess was a thing back in the day, early 2000s. I remember Anand was very good at
Advanced
advanced chess.
chess, yeah?
Yes, yes. So this is, you can say, a more evolved form of it, because there I think there was still a time limit that made sure games ended in hours. But here you have days and months to play out a single game. So it's really human chess AI collaboration. I like to think of it like we were doing the vibe coding with Chat GPT, but in chess terms before GPT was even around.
Wow, that's very interesting actually. Tell us a bit about your setup you have. Is it a secret that you cannot share, or is it something that you can tell our viewers? Because, as you said, there are 20 games going on. You would be you would be logging into the website of ICCF, then seeing that, okay, this is the position, and you would need a strong setup of engine, hardware, and so on. So, what do you use for it?
So I'm happy to talk about engines. I use the latest versions of Stockfish and Leela. I used to use Komodo Dragon until they stopped its development. I think now Torch is basically closed source. I have tried derivatives of Stockfish. I think they're quite popular. Any person familiar with the open source chess scene knows that there are a million versions of Stockfish, but they're all weaker. And somehow I realized, I think much later in my correspondence journey, that it's less about the engine and more about the human player who's adding the input. So it is not about what engine you use, it's about how you use it. I think there's this very famous quote in Naruto, the anime, where there is a character that says a person who throws a pebble, a master who throws a pebble can beat a beginner who's throwing the most advanced weapon. So I think it's more about mastering the collaboration with the engine. With regards to hardware, I've been pretty transparent in the past as well. I don't really have the strongest hardware. I recently upgraded to a basic gaming setup for my desktop. Nothing really serious. I wouldn't say like hundreds of cores and all that. For the majority of my journey, I used a 6 core laptop with a very basic graphics card that I got back in 2019 when I was writing for ChessBase and ChessBase India, because we needed to use FatFrits, and I didn't have a graphics card then that would support it. I used that extensively. Recently, I upgraded, but the upgrade is more about getting to the same conclusion faster rather than saying, oh, I have X scores more now, that's going to make me 200 yellow stronger.
Wow. Okay, but in general, like when you are using all of these, engines and so on, it how long does it take you to make a move? Like, what has been the longest amount of time that you have spent for making a move?
Oh wow, that's a hard question. Because the honest answer is it depends on the position. The moment a position becomes winning, I would have already spent a few days calculating the ramifications with the computer. So I would basically say, I play X. opponent plays y, and then I start calculating the entire line from start to finish to get to some sort of conclusion. Basically, go at least 10 to 15 moves deep. So, in those sort of situations, I typically tend to play faster because the result is sort of clear. Now it's very clear that I'm winning. And if I'm playing a very strong opponent who is very proficient at either copying the engine or working with it, nowadays you can't tell the difference, I then sort of shut down the game a little earlier, or I use it to start experimenting with different opening ideas. So there again, I would make my moves a little faster. But if there is a game where I know that I have a realistic chance greater than zero of winning, then I would spend days poring over the moves. I would check multiple candidates, not just at move one, but at move two, three, four, and then keep going deeper and deeper until I find a line where play doesn't get killed off. And then I would play it. I think I have spent in some cases up to 10 days to 12 days for a move. I know people who spend longer, but for me, 10 to 12 is the max I've spent. Yeah.
It's like chess, but it's a completely different world of chess. Does it happen to you that you are working in like you're doing your job, but your mind is also thinking about chess all the time, or have you been able to kind of separate the different parts of your life?
I think that's something, I would like to crack a wise man's joke here. That's something my manager has known from day one, that I've always been able to balance different aspects of my life. No, there hasn't been cases where I have, I'm at work and I'm really thinking about something, because when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I am doing CC, I'm playing CC. That's all. When I'm meditating, I'm meditating, hopefully. So there was only one case recently where it was during one of the vacations I had taken. There was one game where my opponent had very little time. So the first thing I would do when I would get up is, as I made a move, because he used to be in Europe, and I would think, okay, it's 3 a.m. Can I try to maximize the amount of thinking time that he spends? And that's the only time where I stressed myself out a little bit by trying to make moves quickly. Quickly realized it wasn't really worth it. So mostly I'm able to separate my concerns quite well.
And now that you've become a senior international master, what's the next aim? Like, I know that there is a correspondence world champion title. There's
Yeah.
also a grandmaster title, right?
Yes, there is. I think, to be very honest with you and candid, I didn't expect to get this far. I just started CC because back then the pandemic had hit, and my over the board career, or we'll call it semi professional, whatever it was, it had hit a dead end because I was at the same rating barrier for a very long time.
Which was,
And it was, sorry,
what was your rating over the board at that point when you stopped playing?
I think it was 1380, 375 when I started playing correspondence. Of course, now FIDE changed the rules. So it was now north of 1600. And I played well in the state championship last year. So it has increased. But back then, I was stuck in this 1200 to 1300 range. I remember we used to have multiple conversations when I was at Goa 2 years in a row. It felt like I was putting in the work, but it was not really getting anywhere. And at the same time, the pandemic hit, and I really had to make a decision because I was in my third year at college, entering my third year, and I had to get really serious about finding a job because I was 20, and chess as a career was really not an option. I had to decide what I needed to do, but I wanted to find a way to stay in touch with the game. And for as long as I can remember, people have always told me you're a great analyst, but practically your emotions always get in your way. So correspondence just happened to be the right fit. And I think we did this series of fact threads and the candidates, if you remember. That time, the amount of appreciation I got from the strong grandmaster fraternity, that really egged me on. It was a sense of external validation that, hey, somebody so senior and so accomplished is telling that you're a good analyst. Maybe you should give this a go. I started then with Fat Fritz because I felt I also had that advantage. And I won my first tournament. And ever since, I didn't really look back. I wanted to stop CC earlier this year. because I felt with the engines getting stronger and stronger, it was very difficult to win. But then somehow I won those 3 games and became a senior international master. So it's become a running joke in the family now that I tell my parents, I'm done after this event, and then I win a game, and then I keep telling them I'm done after this. So ad infinitum. I don't really have, I know it's a longish answer, but please do bear with me. I never started with a goal. I just wanted to have fun and stay in touch with the game I love. I managed to become SIM because I stuck to the process and didn't really bother about the result. I am really indebted to my guru, Sadguru, for it, because when I got initiated into advanced practices that he orchestrates, I quickly realized that there is no point in fretting about the outcome, but rather just putting 120% into everything I do. That seems to have a more tangible effect. When spiritual growth happens, material success follows. So, not really thinking about GM title, not thinking about world championship. I am playing the World Cup right now. If I win the preliminaries, I qualify to the finals. If I win the finals, I think I can directly play the world championship tournament. But to be honest, that's still at least 3 4 years away. Who knows where we'll all be in 3 4 years. Just taking every game, every move, every day as it comes. Grateful
Amazing.
that I got this far.
Amazing. Who is the strongest correspondence player in India right now? And is there someone who's similar to, let's say, Magnus in over the board chess is in correspondence chess?
It's a very interesting way of putting it. If there is a Magnus of correspondence chess, there used to be a lot of strong Russian correspondence grandmasters who won multiple world championships, but that was before I entered the fray. The strongest active player in India right now is Grandmaster Krishnan Shashikiran, who is also, by the way, the only other active player apart from myself to be senior international master. Even he hasn't
From
achieved the.
India.
Yes. So there are only two active senior international masters in India: Sashi, who achieved it in I think 2015-16, and me, who I achieved it this year, just a month back. So he's the strongest by rating right now. And there is one more person ahead of me. I think he's about 2470, 2480 range. And I'm
What's
India
your
number three.
rating?
My current rating is 2454, but I'm at least winning 2 games. So I'm expecting to get closer to 2500. Probably in the next 6 months, I should cross 2500. That's the goal.
Wow.
It'll be nice to hit that barrier in at least one format.
And also, I mean, I think you lose very few games, right? Like in general.
There are people who have been unbeaten their entire lives. I'm disappointed to say I'm not one of them. This happened during the pandemic. I got very emotional in a position for some reason. I forgot to include G takes F3, G takes F3 before playing King F8. You can find the game in the database. I played a wonderful semi-Slav. In a semi-Slav, you never get G5, G4 almost. I played Queen A5, Queen H5, G5, G4. I got almost a mating attack, and all I had to do was include a intermediate sequence. I didn't, so it went from winning for me to losing, and I lost that game. But that taught me the value of staying patient when making moves, even in a field like correspondence.
Wow. There's so many interesting things to talk about, but how about we look at a few of your games, because I think that will also give our
Yeah,
viewers a very good insight into how correspondence chess works, how the ideas come about, and maybe you can give us some of your thoughts on the critical moments.
definitely. Let's go through them.
Okay. So we have this first game here, which you've played against Mike Stubbs.
Yes.
And you were black. Maybe we could flip it here
Yeah.
from black's POV. And
I've
you,
stuck to Sicilian almost my entire correspondence career. It has
okay.
either been Sicilian or French mainly. E4, E5 I used to do when Setu released his lifetime repertoire. I won one very good game there. But E4, E5, it is much easier for white to neutralize the game. Sicilian, there is still some fight on.
And he played this very popular Sicilian Grand Prix, which is popular in over the board chess.
Yeah.
I don't know how popular it is in correspondence chess and how potent it is. But here you,
Potency is a question for sure, because at this level you want to choose openings that keep the tension on the board for a very long time while also ensuring that you're not tangibly worse. And while the Grand Prix itself might not be worse, I know this specific system with bishop e2, d3, f4. If you remember, it comes from the second bishop e2 move order. That might be playable, but this specific variation back at the time was popular in terms of games played. But I think after my next move, it's very clear that black's the one who has the more pleasant position out of the open.
So you came up with this idea here, knight at 6.
Yes, I think this is a very nice way of treating this position. Basically, we are going to counter in the center with d5 at some point, and if ever white goes e5, we are ready to break f6 now. So white never gets that typical Grand Prix bind of e5 and then going for the kingside attack. As you will see, both sides will start using the e and f files. So it really counterattacks against white's desired plan. I feel it's a very strong idea here.
Right, and in the game you did get in d5, and after e5 you also played a timely f6.
Yeah, I think this is important now because otherwise white will consolidate, and now white doesn't have time to take on d4. I think because e5 is falling, and also there might be some issues at a later point along either the long diagonal or the a7 g1 diagonal also potentially. And white is really behind in development, so shouldn't really go pawn grabbing.
So he's still coming after your d4 pawn, which is kind of weak.
Yes, it looks weak. I'll agree with you on that. But as you'll see, concretely, I managed to make it work because white is never really in time to take. Again, the
So
same
nice.
problem. The moment you take, I think the G1 A7 diagonal opens and all sorts of things will start happening.
Yeah, something like this should be trouble, yes?
Yes, yes, I think this is already looks like I should be winning a piece here.
So he played king h1, and then you managed to get e5, and although your pawns were a bit kind of doubled and weak, but you have very good control, yes?
Yes, I think this double D pawns are what win me the game eventually because they might look weak, but if you remember specific Rai Lopez structures, right, especially in the Berlin endgame, those pawns end up controlling a lot of squares, and it's a very similar concept here. The dark squared bishop almost never enters the game.
Wow, and look at this. You have like this amazing knight on f5,
Yeah,
and his bishop is passive. And I think when you get such a position and the engine is already giving you slightly better as black,
yeah.
it must be a lot of fun to play such positions.
Yes, it really is. I think the aspect of even getting here was fun for me. And the fact that now I got this good position means I can just start to enjoy the process of playing. I
Right.
think already here it is slightly tough for white. I mean, the computer gives a small minus, but I mean, optically, in a human game, I would imagine black winning 9 times out of 10. It's a horror show to play. I think
Mm.
already the somewhere the decisive mistake should come now. I Yeah, this king e6 is very very important. I feel because now you see we are basically playing against that bishop because you put the king on the light square, so the bishop can never get in an attack against it. And it might look like king in the center is weak, but actually white's pawn is getting the way. Without the e5 pawn, maybe there is some counterplay. With it, it just acts like a shield.
Yeah, very nice. And then you managed to convert this very well.
I
Uh,
think, yeah, there is one more critical moment that there is, yes, after all these trades, yes, I think we need to go to the
he
point where I get
took
d3
here,
because until there, it's probably not clear that I'm
d4,
better.
g5, and you took check, took the bishop, king takes. And now you managed to push this. Wow.
Yes, and I think without this, the entire concept fails. And now you see the advantage of the extra d pawn because I could give up one, but now the other, and the rook is so strong, I'm basically winning here by force.
Amazing.
Rook g8 is very important. Again, cuts off the king, and I don't even need to take the pawn. The king march is really strong. And now I do, of course, because e7 was a
Check.
problem.
And you get king e4, and with f3 coming up, and I think he's almost in zugzwang here.
Yes, I think any improving move here is already good for me. I think the critical point is probably not to take on f2 because then the outside passer might seal the deal for him. But as long as I keep making logical moves, he's just run out of moves. I think here he resigned.
Wow. So amazing. This was a great game. Let's have a look at another one. This time you are playing with the white pieces, and it seems like you are a big expert in the Catalan opening with white.
Unconsciously, by accident, by chance, I would say, it basically came to a point in my correspondence chess journey where when I started, I used to do all rubbish. I would, I shouldn't call it rubbish because Wing Gambit is still a very dear opening of mine,
Yes, I
but I
remember
was
you
not
had
really
written
getting.
a survey on it as well, right?
No, Wing, I have not.
Ah,
Wing, I am in the process of doing something. I'm
You
not
were
sure
going to
what.
write a book. Yes, I remember.
Yes, yes, I am in the process of writing. Yeah, we have done a soft launch now.
Amazing.
Yes, I am in the process of writing a book on the Wing Gambit. I have written on the Smith Mora for Chessable. So something with me and Gambits against Sicilian, I guess. But I mean, as fun as they very easy to diffuse in a correspondence environment, which is where I was looking for a complement to the Reti that I play, Reti and English. And you see, with the English order, we reach the Catalan. One of my all-time favorite openings, for sure. So easy to get a game here.
It's very difficult for black to kind of equalize in concrete sense. Yes.
Yes, I mean, this specific line, at least, which is seen in this game, it is borderline torture after the idea that I introduced.
I'm
Yes, let
curious.
us. Yeah, and
I
now
think
this
this has
knight
all
c3.
been played before.
Yes, yes, all of this has been seen. I think the real innovation comes, yes, now after takes, takes, and c6. This used to be the old main line, and people were much more conservative here. They would go something like e3. But this idea that I play of e4, I think it borderline kills the system. Now it's so easy for white to play e5, some point h4, h5. You have all the space in the world. And I think already this sequence was. I remember talking to this senior international master from US, Wolf Moro, and he saw this sequence of queen b6, queen c7, and he said, okay, this is where things start to go wrong for black. And back at the time, I'm pretty sure he was using an alpha beta engine, and those really didn't understand this Catalan specifically. You will see here that engine will still give small advantage, but it's so easy for white to improve the position. That's very natural moves.
Yeah, I mean it looks really nice, but I'm very curious to see how you manage to break through here. Knight a4. You can't take the pawn because of knight c5.
Yeah.
Rook d8, attacking d4, queen c4. Wow, and you
And
kind of got a bind, yeah, on the
yeah.
king.
So basically the trick to win in correspondence is, if there is a trick, you have to try and prevent liquidating pawn moves or liquidating sequences as much as possible. B6
Mm.
is okay because now black has also created a weakness.
Yeah, now this is seriously weak.
Yeah. But I think even here the position was tenable, and somewhere he allows this very nice concept that I introduced. Yeah, bishop b4 was already an inaccuracy, I feel. Maybe I'm not sure what the modern engines feel, but I remember at the time bishop b4 was not the top choice.
Mm.
And now you will, yeah, a5 was also. Now it feels like black has just wasted a lot of time on
You are
the
coming
queen side.
here.
Yes, and I think everybody now knows Game Changer and Alpha Zero. If you remember, Alpha Zero was great at attacking squares of a given color complex. So here it is basically a light squared attack, and now things start to get rolling. Yes, Rook H4 comes in the game.
It's very interesting that you are able. This game does feel very human. Ooh, what d5?
Yes, and I think this is a very key moment in the game because without this, you will not have the extra leverage that I get in the game. Otherwise, the d pawn starts getting in the way. Now it's
Right.
okay, you're a pawn down, but it doesn't really matter.
D. Wow. I mean, I would imagine this position to be completely fine for black.
This is lost already.
Okay. EF, bishop f6, queen c5.
And it's critical you don't take the d pawn. It's absolutely critical you leave the pawn there. That is also something that might contradict normal human thinking, because you think I just take the pawn, I
Yeah,
still have the attack.
you are attacking it, and once you get a chance, you should pick it up, but actually, you did not.
Yes. I think I now it is a little bit of maneuvering, basically to put black in some sort of zugzwang. And now you can see the advantage of having that pawn there, because now the long diagonal is safe for the king.
Mm.
And that is the sort of long term strategy that you can probably do best in correspondence, that deciding whether to take the pawn or not. Because human game you will just take, but here you with a computer you see that with the pawn your king is safer. I think about here he resigned, I think, after
Yeah,
queen e6.
this is
One
a
of my
big.
best games. This is as you can see, I was still unrated at the time. I was in the process of getting a rating, and in correspondence you need to play at least, I think, 13 to 15 games to get it. And this is one of my most special wins ever,
Yeah,
because
it was beautifully played. We have another game of yours in the uh, Catalan. This time you are playing
yes,
against Gert Legemat from Netherlands.
yes, he is an international master. And yeah, let's pause here on bishop b4. If anybody wants to take up correspondence, I encourage you to try and find something concrete against this, because this is the most common response to the Catalan nowadays at the highest level. And it is also the most annoying one for me to face, because I think you have seen a lot of human games also where black will suffer in a very slightly worse position, but there is so little tension or asymmetry that white can barely do anything. So this was, I think I'm most proud of the idea that I found for this game,
Okay.
simply because I managed to make him play in a position which he thought was drawish.
BG2, castles, queen c2, c6. And this all standard stuff.
Yes, and this is the first real point, right? Because I don't think you go knight c3 here,
Yeah,
if I remember.
generally you go like bishop f4, rook d1, and so on.
Yes, knight c3 is not the main move, because of course you're giving the pawn. And this is, it's not just this move, but it's conjunction with the next two moves I make. That was the fresh idea.
Okay.
And now, yes, this is the idea. Of course, if black takes on e4, it's very comfortable for
So
white, as is
DC,
well known.
yes.
But now, yes, this is the idea, h4.
H4. And what's the plan? Do you want to go like something like e5 and knight g5 or?
e5, h5, h6, as you will see in the game.
Uh-huh.
And the basic point here is, and maybe we can just, yeah, we can
What
probably
the
take a
hell?
pause.
Come on.
Yes, we can probably take a pause here. I mean, after maybe ed. White's a pawn down,
What
but
is CD? Like just straightening up the structure.
CD should not really be that good. And I remember, I think similar plans such as h5, h6 should work. I'm not able to
You
recollect
are you
the.
are actually just giving up a free pawn for what? To kind of get this pawn here and attack the king, yes?
Yes, yes. Another way to win in correspondence is to generate a long-term attack against the enemy king, which is also a very good way to win in over-the-board chess. But in correspondence, I think that's probably one of the best ways to do it, because computers sort of still have this horizon problem where they cannot see what is happening until it's too late.
Wow.
And at the, I think at the simple price of a pawn, I am getting a very interesting position with more space in the center, kingside attacking chances. I take this in a heartbeat.
Okay, b3 played b5. You played h5 now, trying to create some play on the king side. h6, g6.
Yes, and I think the next move was
Wow.
also very interesting.
Because if black gets like knight f8, knight e6, should be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, that should be fine. And again, this is a case of human intuition overriding engine, because engine will say 0.00. I think your stockfish should be giving a pretty similar eval by now.
Mm-hmm.
But the important aspect here is that it is not extremely trivial for black to find a very, very forced path to equality. And as long as that chance of outplaying the opponent exists, you should go for that variation.
The way you are playing here, I mean, it's just very, very difficult to understand. You are now what, 2 pawns down?
Yeah.
95.
But I think now there was some knight. Yeah, now there will be some knight takes g6 ideas. So
Wow.
I win back one of the pawns. And I think e5 was already an slight imprecision, if I remember. Very slight. But now, yeah, now comes the howler. What is your stockfish showing you?
I have not switched it on here.
Okay. If
Yeah.
you do before queen takes d4, you will see that queen takes d4 is the first choice for about 5 to 6 seconds, up to a depth of maybe 30, depending on what system you're using. But this is the decisive mistake in the game.
Wow.
This is what I meant when I said you have to find those systems where it is not trivial for black to solve problems. And now I think there is, now the end is very pretty. I mean, I remember in my notes after queen takes d4 and rook a e1, I wrote, wow, I cannot believe I'm winning this.
Check.
I think, yes. And now king h1 is very important. Very, very important.
Stopping queen f2 with a check. The e5
Yes.
hangs. And if rook f2, there's queen e8, which
Yes.
wins.
Yes. And I actually did test this position out with a few people. King h1 was really, really hard to find. So I think it's a good pattern recognition test for any strong player.
Amazing. Amazing. A quiet move to finish the game. Uh,
Black loses the queen by force here, by the way.
yeah. Oh, this is hanging, and yeah, if let's say rook
Yeah.
g8, then I guess there's rook e5. That should work because of queen f6.
Yeah. There's no check also. That's the problem.
Mm. Amazing. Let's look at one more game. I'm now getting more and more curious, yeah, the way you are winning. So
Yes.
this
Oh, yeah.
one is with Hunger Horst Hunger, and again you played the Catalan.
Yeah, with this move order, and again, I should mention that G3 is a sophistication that I use because the Queen's Indian is a very, very hard nut to crack in CC level. Over the board, I would be very scared as black after the Queen C2 gambits, but correspondence, it's probably just a forced draw.
And this time goes for the open variation, which you already saw this line.
Yes.
G5.
But this is the more precise way of playing where I think black gets this A5 move, and it's very difficult for white to get the same sort of bind that I got. And the point is, I either have to allow a5 or I have to allow some pawn break in the center with e5 or c5. So I thought better to keep the center closed and keep maneuvering. This was actually, now again, this rook b8 is the start of maybe not a great plan. I'm not really sure what he was planning, just getting off the long diagonal maybe. But you will see that if you turn on any engine and look at this game, he's still making fine moves. And you will see this tendency a lot in correspondence. When people win games, there is often a very, very wide margin. There are so many possibilities, but that's how you win. Like you have to confuse your opponent so much that they don't know which option to choose.
Mm.
It's the problem of choice. And I think that's how already this position I was feeling very, very confident because again, I'm getting this slow burning attack on the king side, g4.
Okay.
And now this is very important, rook c3.
Wow.
This is a very positional sacrifice. It's not a
Because if
tactical.
you went on playing on the king side, he would break on c3 and then get the pieces in.
Yes, yes. And that is why it is very important because the exchange is not really important here. The more key aspect is that there is no queenside counterplay, or at least it is limited in scope.
When you must have played this move, I think you would have been on very happy that few
Oh,
days
yeah.
after that.
Yeah. I couldn't. And again, let me reiterate higher depths, this position engine still says it's a draw. But I was already having a lot of fun here. I was thinking, wow, I'm playing such an interesting game. I'm probably like Petrosian here and Alpha Zero sacrificing an exchange for positional compensation because it's a pure exchange, right? I'm
Yeah.
not even getting a pawn.
But you have this very strong, like 5 pieces ready to pounce on the black king.
Yes, and again, that just goes to show how much engines understand chess better than us. Because I don't think a human would very easily make the move rook c3 unless he's a Tal or an Adiban or a Morozevich, that sort of player. But for most, it will be very hard to justify that sacrifice. I think, yeah. Now, I think we skipped over some critical moment. Can we just go back? Little bit. Yeah, I think bishop into a4 was the decisive mistake. Yes, yeah. Can we just stop before bishop into a4? So up to this point, computer will still give you an advantage, big advantage for white, because I'm slowly outplayed him. It slowly understands that the attack is coming, but it's still a draw, FYI. I ran the stockfish up to depth 100 plus here, and b5 holds.
Wow.
Just holds.
Wow.
Barely holds. But I think it was already, I knew that he was getting to a point of no return because he kept making these small inaccuracies, move after move after move, just chose the wrong plan. And after 94, it's over. It's just finished.
Check.
I think this position is already +4. Yeah,
Trying its
now,
best, but too much to handle.
yeah, I think the queen gets trapped now. So you end up tactically, you win another piece. Yeah, king g1 is again important
To protect
because now you,
f2.
yes, to defend f2. So that next you are ready to play bishop h3. So now, yeah,
Queen is
a2
trapped
is,
actually.
yeah, it is trapped, but the point is black still has a2, so the game is not dead yet. But of course, with an engine, it is sort of over already. Again, king h2 is important because now after a1, there's bishop b1,
Wow.
and now, yes, knight takes f7 is the killer.
So
Queen
cute.
h6,
So cute. This entire variation, amazing.
and
And
now queen g5, queen somewhere, and now bishop g6, and he resigned. Queen g8 and f7, he resigned. Yes, and I think you're losing everything here.
wow. It was interesting to see that in the final position, black is the one who's rook up.
Yes. Yes, and that is how I have typically won my correspondence games. I think somewhere my over the board style of playing aggressively and sacrificing material still comes to the fore. But I think it is less about speculative sacrifices and more about really strong long term ones.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you would be losing games left, right, and center.
Yeah, yeah. This one is very pretty because I managed to improve on this game from the 2022 Olympiad between Musad and Hari Krishna.
Mm.
This is a well known line. And there's a small story. So before castles, I did look at my opponent's games beforehand. So I saw that he was doing d6 here, and after c3 he would go castles, and then he would be back in the main lines like h3, knight f5, bishop c2, c5, d4, queen c7, and then d5, which is known to be very good for white nowadays. So I was very happy to get that, and then my opponent shocks me with short castle instead of this.
Mm.
And I was thinking to myself, man, what did I do? Because otherwise, I don't play e4. If you see, I stopped playing e4 after 2023 because it's very easy for black to liquidate the game. Yes, queen e2 is important. Can we just go a little back? Yes. So bishop c4, bishop g4 is theory. Queen e2 is the first new move. If you go back, instead of queen e2, h3, bishop h5, and bishop into a6 is this line. I had this in my notes in 2021, and I was borderline surprised, shocked to see Musa try this against Hari Krishna in the 2022 Chennai Olympiad.
Wow.
There were some correspondence games as well, but this is the first high level over the board game. And then I think I realized he was sort of gunning for this. And then I had found this Queen E2 also at the same time. So I had about 3 ideas here. And Queen E2 sort of keeps more tension on the board. So I decided to go for it.
Nice.
And again, it paid off. Yeah, this Queen C8 was very strange, but it is Stockfish's top choice, so I'm hesitant to question it too much.
This also looks very scary for you, with you
It does,
moving him.
but let's remember I have the bishop pair and I am a pawn up, and any knight h5, knight f4, the moment I get d4, I can just take. So there is no immediate attack, and the a pawn will start going. And I think, yeah, this is a first critical moment. I think knight e6 was not good. After takes, he had to go d5 if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And this was closer to equality. I mean, it's still a game, as you can see. There is a lot of fight left, but I would say that was probably the most precise. So he starts making these inaccuracies. Yeah, and now again, queen takes f3 was the best. And the point is, after bishop c6, knight into e4 or something like this, black is barely holding, if I remember correctly. And there's some knight g5, knight h3 that comes.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if it is the specific variation, but yeah.
Well,
I think this is, yes. So, but now already I think it is. Yeah, after a7 he had to go rook a8. I mean, who plays rook d8 here? It was already. I'm not sure what he was doing by this point, but it's very clear he chose the wrong plan. Yeah, king h1 and it's just over. And now there's any knight f4, you always have the g1 square for the major piece. And yeah, e5 and rook into e5 is important. Somehow me and exchange sacrifices, huh? We get
beautiful.
together with.
And then
It's not even a real, yeah.
you're a pizza.
Now tell me, Sagar, I have a question for you. Now, if I didn't tell you the evaluation, would you play this as black in an over the board game?
You mean this opening or?
No, this specific position, if I gave it to you in an over the board game and I say, Sagar, you go play black, would you go play black here?
I think in an
I mean,
over
what
the
does it look to you?
in over the board game, maybe um for me it feels like there is insufficient compensation because of the fact that I have an extra piece. But this knight is beautifully placed. This pawn is strong, but maybe I feel like it's not enough for equality.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Maybe the more attacking players will probably still find a way to swindle an opponent in a faster time control.
Mm.
But as you will see, now it is just wonderful consolidation. Rook f1 is very nice. Now you give the b3 pawn, but everything works out because at the cost of a pawn, now queen and knight are coordinating,
Wow.
so he's forced to trade. And now there's this very nice sequence. You will see that I will give up the d6 pawn eventually, and I will liquidate into an exchange up position. Yes, and I think now the tactics sort of work out,
Wow.
and this is important. And now I think he just resigned. This is a very
Amazing.
trivial win
Amazing.
in any format.
And yeah, we have one final game which we would like to look at. We saw many Catalans, we saw e4, e5 as well right now. Here's a game where you played black, the French defense. Is it
My first love.
but is it considered slightly inferior in correspondence chess?
Okay, I have addressed this in multiple forums. First time in Karthik Venkatraman's YouTube channel, where I said, Sashi sir, I vehemently disagree with you because he played the win over and got a worse position. And I think recently trends have really changed, Sagar. If you had asked me this question before Leela and Fat Fritz and all these enemies came to the fore, I would have probably agreed with you, at least in terms of engine evaluation. Now it's not the same. Of course, this is not even the most critical line. French nowadays is one of the best ways, if not the most optimal way to equalize against e4.
Really?
Yes,
Which is the
especially
reason
the
why
queen d6 line.
Ding also chose it for his match against Gukesh and got great positions actually.
Yes, yes. You will get a equal position with a lot of fight. I think it suited. The problem maybe for Ding was that sometimes he was not really ready for that sort of fist fight. So about here, I think we saw very clear that black is already equalized. But the question is how you're going to play for a win, which is why I started playing this a5 to try and now after queen f4, yeah, this is important because if you trade on white's terms, you have nothing. And it's now if white takes, you will take with the g pawn after queen f6. And it is already more pleasant to play with black. And I think about here I started to get optimistic because it really didn't understand how white is also going to play for a win. If anything, I was consolidating. Now I think I will start playing on the queen side with b5 at some point. And already you see, right, you have this imbalance of bishop versus knight. Normally in the French, the light squared bishop is a bad piece, but here is the piece that wins me the game.
It's very strong, and
Yes, I'm slightly better here, and now I will give up the g6 pawn. Borderline irrelevant because now the connected passers will go, and it's very interesting to note the difference between the connected passers here. And yeah, that was his last chance FIL. After queen c8, he had to take, and I think the endgame is still holdable.
but it
But
looks so dull. This
it
position.
is, it is, it is, it is much easier to play with black, but I think objectively computer felt at that time, at least when I was playing, is the best. But now already it is borderline lost, I think. Now it's maneuvering. Just note how useless the d4 and c5 pawns are. Again, this idea of playing on the light squared color complex. You will see some recurring themes across all these wins.
Yeah.
And this was nice. This is
Wow.
a rucksack.
Oh, this is so amazing. Fe, if Fe, then you have
I think b2 and c3 in some order should win here. Yes, and the king is one tempo short.
true. So here
The tragedy of one tempo.
he went rook b7. No,
But now it is simpler. The c pawn is going nowhere. The king is going to come, and he will soon be forced to relinquish the seventh rank also. I mean, the rest of the game really is torture for white because I get everything, and I'm actually surprised that in a correspondence game he played on till mate. And again, this is the most precise way to mate.
he's also hoping that you might disconnect or something else.
Yes, yes, and this sort of thing happens. So they're
Wow.
very precise
Beautiful.
manipulation.
What amazing games, Tanmay. Actually, we saw some 6 to 7 games right now, and each of them had such great ideas, such concepts. Um, Kudos to you.
Thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah, and with this skill set that you have, don't you think that you would also be someone who could help top players and so on in their preparation, perhaps?
Well, I'm open to the possibility, and I think that's something that people know. I'm open to people coming, and I have sometimes received offers in the past, but due to professional commitments, I could not commit full time to them. Some of them required a full time commitment. But I think now I'm in a space where I have stabilized in my main day to day job, and I have some amount of time and maybe an inclination also to try and do something good with, maybe great with somebody. And shout out to all the 2700s and the world champions, past, present, and future. If you do want to work together, let's talk. At least it'll be fun to see what we can come up.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think, Tanmay, the way in which you are kind of growing in this domain, it only feels like there will be more and more things that will be coming up for you as the time goes by. Is there anything that you would like to tell our viewers about this journey of yours?
Yes, I think two things mainly. I'll start with gratitude because people often realize very late on that journey of success is not of one person alone, it is of a combination of people. So thank you to my coaches, Shivananda. I think he is the one who instilled my fundamentals. I also, for the first time I'm revealing this, I worked with a Russian grandmaster, Dmitry Gordievsky, for
Mm.
a couple of years just after the pandemic. And he is also dabbled in correspondence for some time, and he showed me this wonderful game that he played which inspired some of the opening choices I made. And he also coached me a lot on how to think about chess, how to approach positions, how to find the critical moment. and all those skills are very useful. So big shout out to DG, as I call him. So thank you so much. Thanks to my parents, of course, for my dad was the one who got me this laptop that began this journey. I think big call out to him, to my mother who decided that chess is something that I should try and do at a young age. My dad taught me the rules, but my mom is the one who insisted that I learn this game, and it has given me so much. And thanks to ChessBase India, I think I should mention this because I remember we started in 2017. ChessBase India was a young child, and I remember reaching out and saying, "Hey Sagar, can we do some game annotations together?" Game annotations became news articles. News articles became opening articles. And a special shout out to Karthik Venkatraman, who's now a good friend. In Goa, if you remember, I showed you this idea in Rookie 1 Berlin, which later became a survey, and Vaishali used it to beat a very strong woman grandmaster in the 2022 Olympiad. You can check it later, this early D5. I showed it to Karthik at the time, and this was 3 years before Vaishali played it. And he said, "Man, this looks interesting. If it works concretely, it can be something." And I think that was the spark that really put me on this journey. So thanks, Karthik. And he was the second person to have me on YouTube. And we had a wonderful conversation. He's been a great friend, big supporter. Big shout out to him. Big shout out to all the folks of the All India Web Chess Federation. Been very supportive of whatever I've done. And all the players there, such huge inspirations for me. Sashi Kiran, I've always looked at his games from afar and thought, man, how is he winning in CC? And to me, he's the epitome of deep and wonderful analysis. And I'll tell you this, Sagar, many people, when somebody reaches the same level as they do, they become insecure. But the first person to wish me when my SIM title became official was Sashi Kiran.
Wow.
And it means a lot because in 2018 I had met him once just before I joined college. He gave me a lot of tips. We had met in person at his home. This is the first time I'm saying this out loud. I think it's been a lot of time. Sashi will forgive me for saying this. And he has always been that inspirational person for me, and the good human that he is. The first person to wish me after I obtained the title. It's like how Federer told Nadal when he reached 20 slams that I'm glad you're here together. It felt like that moment. So thank you to all these people and to my guru, because it's guru's grace that I found Samyama. I meditate 3 hours a day.
Every day.
And yes, I do.
3 hours a day.
Yes.
And what time do you meditate?
It's split into different portions. So I start with a kriya in the morning. I do 15 minutes of what is called shunya meditation. I also do samyama. I can't do samyama. You are in that state, I would say. There is I cannot go into details obviously, but I was initiated into that in December 2023 by Sadhguru. It was an in-person program. To prepare for that, I had to spend 2 months not eating onion, garlic. Obviously, I'm a vegetarian, no meat, no chilies, no tea, no coffee, 2.5 hours of yoga every day. It was a very, very tough regime to prepare, and it was 8 days of total silence with 3,000 people.
Wow.
So I was there. It changed my life. I can honestly say the Tanmay before, which is probably the Tanmay you know, is very different from who I am today. And my deepest gratitude to my guru. Without him, his grace, I don't think all this would be possible. To my professional mentors who have always encouraged my chess journey. I know it's a long gratitude note, but I really want to get this out because
It
it's
also
coming from the heart.
shows that so many people have contributed to you
Yes,
reaching where you are today.
yes. My professional mentors, I'd like to call out a few. Rohit Ramanand, he was also a chess player back in the 80s, played a few local tournaments. My mentor, I would say, call him a spiritual dad, Rohit Chatur. He is always so enthusiastic about my chess achievements. Ravi Balasubramaniam, all three are folks who are at Walmart who are now doing exceedingly well in other companies. My own manager, who was always very supportive, Rajesh, and recently I won a tournament in Walmart, so everybody was pleased, that finally I did something within the company also. Thanks to every friend who has been there along this journey. to every person who supported me, and to the detractors who said uh, that I needed to get better. Thank you for motivating me. I think your words helped me become the man I am today.
Amazing. Thank you, Tanmay, for your time and thank you for showing us these games. Also, a big thanks uh, to you for talking about your journey so openly. I'm pretty sure that it will inspire more players to take up correspondence chess. What
Yes.
would be the right way for them to begin? Just go to ICCF website or
Yes, I think they can go to ICCF and register, and then you will have to register with All India Web Chess Federation. The lifetime fee is very minimal, about I think 1,500 to 2,000 now. I'm not sure of the exact amount. And AIWCF also has internal tournaments where you can hone your skills before you start playing on ICCF. You have a good community of players to play with. Get yourselves in the latest engines. Join the Stockfish and Leela Discord channels, because I see that's what a lot of top players are doing these days. Shout out to Vidit. I think the conversations he had with the Leela Chess Zero developers there were mind opening even for me, as someone who has been in those channels for a while. So join Stockfish and Leela Discord, get the latest versions of those. Start reading books by Matthew Sadler. I always recommend Sadler as somebody who really knows his engines. Look at his YouTube channel. The way he uses them, not just as something where you just get an output and keep pressing spacebar, as Gelfand calls it. You use them as a sparring machine. You use it as a competitor, as a guide, as a sparring partner. Do all those things, but always remember the most important thing is to have fun. You should have fun in those endless nights you spend with the 0.00, thinking whether it was worth taking this up at all. Trust me, you will learn more from the draws and the painful losses, that eventually success will taste all that more sweet. So that would be the path I would suggest. And I hope that correspondence just booms. I already see a lot of top players experimenting with it. I think Sham Sundar used to play, Ramesh used to play. We had Abhijit who came and played, Abhijit Gupta. Of course, Shashi Kiran is always there. So Gaevsky, by the way, used to do a little bit of correspondence himself. When I spoke to him, he showed me one of the games where he had found an idea in the Rai Lopez. So he is familiar with that scene. It was very nice to hear. Most of these authors nowadays use a lot of correspondence games for reference. So that's your one-stop shop. Get the ChessBase correspondence database and try to update it with whatever ICCF gives you for free. They have this monthly games that they keep putting out. Once you create an account, you can download. I think I've covered it all. And follow Nikos. I think Nikos is also a very, very strong ICCF player. He's an international master. And that is also surprising that he was an IM before I joined. And in the short span that I've been here, we have very similar ratings, but I managed to make this title directly without going through the IM path. So it was like a skip level jump. And Nikos is someone, again, I
so
really admire for
people can
his.
follow Nikos. His full name is Nicholas Nitrilis, yes?
Yes, yes.
And he is on Twitter.
Yeah, I think Twitter is where he got the idea for his next book and got Anish Giri to write a foreword for it. So pretty sure he knows his stuff. I think the E4 book he wrote for QC recently was a collection of ideas that he had shared on Twitter. I'm not on any social media, so I don't follow him there. But I've heard a lot of great things about his ideas from people. And his French book was the one that inspired me to take up that opening back in 2013. So he's good.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Tanmay, and we hope that when you have more successes, we can have you again, and we will be able to show more of your gems in the world of chess. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sagar. Always happy to be here and spending time with you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.